So, welcome to the Blues Focus signing series. Tonight, I'm joined with Dan from Rovers Chat. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having us on. I'm looking forward to discussing about Reda Khadra and what it'll hopefully bring to you for the second half of the season.
Wicked, yeah. It's not been confirmed just yet that Khadra is joining us, but we are talking about his sort of potential that he could bring to the club. So, theoretically, let's say he has for this little bit of the conversation. So, Dan, take the floor. What do you think to Reda Khadra?
Yeah, a surprise, I'll be honest. I weren't expecting Birmingham to take him on loan. I thought maybe he'd go to a playoff club as such. I know you're not too far off it, but I thought maybe like not even a Norwich with a new manager might go from a QPR with a new manager, someone who kind of needs that extra boost. I think when I saw Birmingham at Ewood this year, I know we won, but I was really impressed by Birmingham, and I don't feel you needed too much else going forward. But this might be that extra bit of the puzzle, because that day, maybe with a Reda Khadra added, you might have got that second goal despite Thomas Kaminski putting in one of the best performances I've seen. And
he was fantastic that day, yeah.
Yeah, incredible, wasn't he? I couldn't believe it myself. He went for a run of 4 games where he must have saved us 8 points, 9 points. I think Reda Khadra will suit you perfectly. I think he's a real talented player, one that just hasn't really worked out at Sheffield United. I think 9 goal involvements in 28 games for Blackburn last year, in a side that struggled in the second half of the season as well as we typically do. So, you can't argue with his record at the club, and I hope he goes on and does something. I just don't think it's worked out at Sheffield United. It's not a matter of, I don't think it's a matter of his personality, his attitude or anything. I just think it's a loan move that didn't really work.
It just happens to some players, doesn't it? I suppose when you join a different team, you've got a different group of players and everything. Sometimes it might just not work out. But obviously, speaking of him, like in terms of like his positional sense and his like ability, whereabouts is he best playing on the pitch?
Yeah, so we used him in a few different positions. We like to use a front three, so we played out wide quite a lot. He played centre forward sometimes, which worked to varying degrees, but our centre forward role were more of a false 9 role, more of a kind of drop back in and almost play that number 10 role. So it was a tough one with Khadra. I think Rovers last year were guilty of playing players anywhere, and Khadra kind of fell in part of that category that maybe sometimes we'd shove him up front when it's not really his position. I think he, like I said, with his 9 goal contributions from that front three, and I think it were 18 starts and 9 appearances off the bench. So, you can't argue with that. He's clearly got attacking talent. And our front three with Brereton Diaz, who stole the headlines last year, sure you'll have all heard of the Chile story and everything that went on about it. Yeah. There were a lot of talent around him that maybe took the headlines, and it wasn't till Khadra left that I think a lot of us sat back and kind of realised actually it was more of an influence than we probably first thought, because everything's Brereton Diaz does this, he does that. But for me, Khadra won us some incredible games, won them on his own, really. And, I'm sure we'll discuss that. Birmingham at home, when we beat you 4-0, I remember he scored that day and he had a really good performance. I've seen the highlights go around today, but there's a number of games you can really pick out from him that kind of shows what he's all about. It's tough to, I think that was his first loan spell in England, and it's tough to judge a player often when they come from abroad and they come and play in a team that is a mile away from the new club they're staying at, never mind a mile away from home. But he settled in really well, ended up with a Germany under-21s call-up as well at the end of the year. Just a real talent, and I think Birmingham will start to see it maybe where Sheffield United haven't in this first half.
Was that his best performance you saw him in the Blackburn shirts, that one against us at home last season?
There were a few, to be honest. There were QPR at home. We were 0-0, both going for the playoffs. He whipped a free kick right over the keeper from out wide, put it in. That game he did quite well running the show. Stoke away, I'd say, for him. He played in the centre-forward role. We actually put 2 up top. We put Sam Gallagher, who obviously you'll know about, maybe not as well as our rave about Khadra with you with Gallagher. I think it was him and Gallagher up front, and it was a dead game, really. And Khadra picks a ball up 25 yards out, strides past 2 and just hits it low in the bottom corner. And it's almost, he had that instinct of a striker that day to do it. And I just think that he got us out of some tough positions. Stoke away, we needed a win, really, to keep the playoff push going. QPR at home, we needed a win to keep the playoff push going. Sheffield United at home, we'd just been beat 7-0. We kind of needed that impact of to get back fighting ways, and Khadra are a big part of that 3-1 win. There's a lot of games you can pick out from him. I think, obviously, when you're playing forwards, you sometimes go and recognise, really, if you're not scoring or assisting, but a lot of the running off the ball, just that raw pace that maybe we're missing this season, and probably Khadra would have come back in and slotted in and done that. And I think a few fans were, hoping he would come back, but he's off to Birmingham, so I wish him luck for the season.
Are you surprised you didn't put a bid back in for him?
If Tony Mowbray had been here, I'd have been surprised. But with Mowbray not being in and John Dahl having his own way of playing, I'm not surprised. We've kind of got a few like him now, but maybe not as much pace, but a few tricky ones. And I don't think we really need another as such. Some fans think they do, but personally, I think we've got his kind of play. Maybe not as many goals or assists, but raw talent. It's about, with his contract up in the summer as well, I think this loan move for him is about proving himself in English football. If he has a good time at Birmingham, he might sign permanently there, or it could just put him on the market for, a bidding more with a Championship with contracts. I think it's about really just working out for him. Can he make a name in English football? Because I think the last thing he wants to do is go back to Germany, play second tier, and then, have to fight his way back up again after being raved about quite highly at Dortmund and in their B team.
It's a good point you make, actually. It's quite interesting because obviously if he comes to a struggling Blues side, a struggling at the moment Blues side, and he can turn us around and get us back on track for the rest of the season, then perhaps it would create a lot of interest and generate that time for him to get that, get that interest back for him. I think that's interesting that you say that. With his ability-wise, what was the sort of the things that stand out for him? Is it his dribbling ability? Because I know you noticed, picked up on the fact that he said he scored a really good goal against Stoke away last season. Is that what he's known for?
Yeah, that's it. I think his tricky pace is quite good with the ball at his feet. Sometimes it might look like he doesn't know what he's doing almost, but he moves the ball that quick, knocks it left to right. I were impressed by him, the fact that I think his footballing mind impressed me at a young age, that he knew when to play the pass, he knew when to try and take it past. Yeah, obviously, with a winger like him, there's going to be a lot of times when the fullback gets hold of him, tackles him, but he kind of knew when to play the pass, which I think you get some wingers who just try and constantly take the man on, constantly try and just run past them because they're quicker. But obviously you need that extra ability to put the cross in, get the shot. I think that's his strength, the eye for goal, the eye for the team, rather than, maybe just being a winger that's in it to get 10 goals in a season. I was really impressed by his attacking, like the way you can read a game attacking-wise. I don't think that's that common in a winger his age. We've got a couple of wingers who are more, let's try and beat a player with skill, let's beat 4 players with skill, whereas he will like maybe beat one and then play the pass. So definitely his awareness going forward, I think, really impressed me and a lot of the Rovers fans.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting, yeah. It's been good to talk to you about a little few things. Was there one last thing actually? What was some of his potential issues and potential flaws he might have had at Blackburn when you saw him there?
Maybe his final ball, maybe that final shot, that final pass might be off sometimes, but it's all about having a young player. Like we mentioned, with him being out of contract, could this be a time when Birmingham are developing a player to then get on a free transfer in the summer and then build him up over 3 years? You're in a tough situation, aren't you? Because if he's out of contract in the summer, who are you developing this player for? Are you developing him for Rovers to then come and take him on a free, or Sheffield United to take him on a free again? It's a tough one. For me, there's a lot of his game to work on, like you'd expect a young player, but I think he's Championship proven already, and I think he's Championship ready. You're not taking, whereas we took on a young lad who hadn't played Championship football, you're taking on a young lad who's played, I think, about 40 appearances now. Obviously, maybe not played as much as they'd liked in the first half of the season, but give him a few games, I think you'll really see Reda Khadra for what he's worth. There's frustrating parts, there's always frustrating parts, but there's a lot of talent there, and I think he could be a really shrewd addition that, maybe we'll look back on in the summer and wonder why didn't we go for him?
Yeah. Final thoughts, good signing, yes or no?
Yeah, good signing for Birmingham. I think adding to Chong, Longelo, Hannibal, who are all impressed with it, Ewood, Hogan, Deeney, I think he's probably got the right environment to thrive as well. Experience up front, which we didn't really have. Burton Dares' experience, but not Troy Deeney, not Scott Hogan. I think he could learn a lot. And for your sakes, I kind of hope you hold on to him in the summer rather than developing for 6 months and then someone comes in and snaps him up and you've got a more rounded product. But we'll wait and see. A good signing on loan. Just fingers crossed for you that you can make it, a permanent deal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Dan. It was very interesting to get your thoughts on Reda Khadra. Be sure to go check out the Rovers Chat. All of their links will be in the description. Thank you once again, Dan, for coming on, and keep right on.